lecture with Professor Brawer. This is going to be the first lecture, one of the 3 lectures. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have the next lecture next month. The themes are of the lectures that we're going to be all on Tanya. Hopefully the next theme, I think I have to speak to Professor Brawer, but the next one was going to be about Igeres HaTshuva of the Alter Rebbe, and the next one, Sha'arei Eichut Va'emunah. So I would like to welcome Professor Brawer to come up and inspire us.
Thank you, Rabbi Pinto. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it's going to be Sha'arei Eichut Va'emunah, and then maybe we'll work it out. Yeah, so if you came for a lecture, you're going to be a little bit disappointed because it's not really a lecture. I don't like to give lectures. This is going to be a very informal discussion, a schmooze maybe. And what I would like to do, the theme is the tremendous originality of Tanya, the stunning insights of Tanya, which revolutionized Jewish avodah, Jewish service. So let me begin by saying one of the greatest blessings that God gave me is that I did not find my way in Torah and mitzvahs through Lubavitch. I was, I'm not being facetious, you'll see what I mean in a minute. My wife and I came through another derech, and we were with that other derech, or derachim, for about 8 years before Providence brought me in contact with the person who changed my life. And the reason it's a blessing is because by the time I got to Chabad, I had questions, and I had problems, and I had insoluble issues. The problem with Chabad is they don't have these things because they've got the Tanya right up front. You know, someone becomes, gets involved in Torah and mitzvahs through Chabad, you begin with Tanya. They don't know what the issues are. They don't know what the problems are. And part of the downside to that is that a lot of Chabadniks don't know what they have. We do chitas, you know, we do it. Well, it's nothing to do. Let me tell you, people do not realize what a treasure it is. The rest of the Jewish world, I think, realizes what a treasure it is. But if you have something all the time, one has to think long and hard in order to be able to sense the unbelievable kedusha and the tremendous insight and the gift that one has in this unbelievable book. So let me tell you a little bit about what happens when you become a Baal Tshuva in the late 60s. This isn't only about Bali Tshuva. These issues that I'm going to raise, I've heard from many, many people all over the place. These are global problems that Jews have. Global difficulties, global issues. For the most part, we don't talk about them, except to our mashpiyim perhaps. But there are serious difficulties. The path of Torah, the path of avodah is not an easy one. It's filled with obstacles, and we, of course, are only human. And there are problems, and there's a great deal of confusion, and there's a great deal of bewilderment. You become involved in Torah and mitzvahs, and very soon you begin to realize there is a pecking order. That there are Jews who are learned, and there are Jews who are not learned. There's and every brand in between. You've got Jews who are spiritually advanced. You've got Jews who don't have a whiff of spirituality about them at all, no matter what they do, and everything in between. So one of the worst things, one of the most difficult things, the hardest things to come to grips with is you're locked. You're locked in. You become locked in. This is what you are. You can imagine as a graduate student at Harvard, I couldn't tell an aleph from a beis. That locked me into a certain status. The Harvard thing, unfortunately, because it was totally false, helped a bit. But nonetheless, in terms of my relationship to my people, so I'm on the lower echelons, and that's where I am, and that's most likely where I'm going to stay. This becomes, you see, this is a major point, a major issue throughout the Torah world. You read these Jewish family magazines. You talk to people. Oh, I want to get a Talmud Chacham for my daughter. Because of her age, we couldn't find a Talmud Chacham, so we settled for a very sincere, very nice man, and he's good too. And what you realize very soon, very early on, is that there is a caste system. And the caste system, whether you think about it, you mention it, you talk about it, it's there. You see it all over the place. This is one major issue. It's not, again, not just for Bali Tshuva, it's for everybody. You're at the bottom of the barrel, essentially. Or if you are at the bottom of the barrel, well, that's tough. The other thing is that when you become involved in Torah and mitzvahs, you expect change. You expect to see yourself change in some way. Doesn't happen. So time goes by. I don't understand it. I'm observing Shabbos. I daven 3 times a day. You're the same person. You're not only the same person, you are the same flawed person. Somehow in the mind of a secularist, the mind of my colleagues, for example, they assume that you were made better in some way. You changed, your life changed. Part of this is the Lahavdil, the Goyish media, which talk about being born again and having major life changes. We do not change. You come in angry, you stay angry. You come in with taivas, those taivas do not go away. On the contrary, you may pick up a few more. You find yourself struggling with yourself. You're struggling with yourself not to achieve levels, to change, to become something better. You're struggling with yourself so you don't fall lower. You're treading water. It's exhausting. You're filled with grudge, with jealousy, with all these pleasant things that many of us have, which we ourselves know what our own little devils are. And you have to fight tooth and nail that you shouldn't give voice to them. Shouldn't chas v'sholom talk lashon hara. Well, what kind of avoid is that? All you're doing is withholding what you really are, which is someone who's not very nice, someone who has poor midos. You struggle with taivas. When you do engage in avoid, it doesn't work. You don't go anywhere. Comes Elul, start to work on yourself, just to say more Tillim, you give more tzedakah, gurnished. Comes Rosh Hashanah, comes Yom Kippur. By Nila, the thoughts that could come into your head are mind-boggling. They're horrifying. And you think to yourself, Gewalt. I just went through a Seres Yimei Tshuva. I've been fasting all day. I've been struggling and fighting and the whole everything. And after all that, this is what thoughts are going to come into. This thought comes into my head. So what does it tell you? It tells you you're a hypocrite. You're a fraud. That all that avoided was just play acting, and you are right back to square one. You've gone nowhere. Your Seres Yimei Tshuva are worthless, and for that matter, so is your day-by-day avodah. That's a little bit harsh. We don't always think in these terms, but they're there. These problems are there, and I cannot tell you how many people have come up to me and with troubled hearts and said, you know something? It's been a Seres Yimei Tshuva just like every other. Nothing happened. I haven't learned from it. I haven't grown from it. I tried and it didn't work. I tried and it didn't work. Can't change. You're locked. You're locked in by a system which has priorities, learning, spirituality. And if you don't have those qualities and you're not capable, you're locked in. You are locked in. You are chained by your natural limitations. Your IQ is just such and such. Your ability to learn is just such and such. Spiritual sensitivity is not something that one acquires. If you're coarse, you're coarse. If you're a materialistic person, you're materialistic. You like food and drink, you like food and drink. It never goes away, ever goes away. And when you subjugate it and you try and deal with it, you feel hypocritical because it's not real. It's an act, it's a game. The worst thing is the tefillah, particularly if you're a new, again, I'm talking about late 60s. I have a feeling that the whole concept of Baal Tshuva today is probably a little bit different and maybe a little bit easier. But I hear these things from everybody. When Avin Year, it's talked about constantly, love of Hashem, fear of Hashem. That's God Almighty after all. That's my Father in heaven after all. I can't muster for him more of emotion than I can for, I pay more attention to brushing my teeth than I do to my tefillah. You can come into shul in the morning and talis tefillin, wake up, wonder where you are. You know, you're in the office. I thought I was in the office. No, you haven't gotten there yet. And this goes on day after day, week after week, year after year. You make one step forward, you fall 2 steps behind. You struggle for what? Going nowhere. You are locked in, you are stuck. Sounds terribly pessimistic, and I'm painting that picture purposely. But elements of what I'm telling you, I've heard from, I can't tell you, so many people. And hearing these things is normal, because most of it's true. Most of these things are really true. I can remember when in Boston, when I was not having trouble with Kavanah. I didn't know what it was. I never experienced it. And I asked people, oh, you know, you should learn a couple hours Gemara before davening. You should go to a cemetery so you can appreciate the great gift of life. You do this as a gornisht. It's nonsense. It was all nonsense. Nothing happened, nothing worked. Why? Why did nothing happen, nothing worked? Because I'm me. And I go to all the cemeteries I want. I can learn all the sugyas I want. And I'm still me. So this is a common problem. It's not a common problem, it's a global problem. It's a universal problem, some more, some less. But everyone at one time or another stops to think, where am I? Where am I going? How come I can't move? How come I'm not better? How come I haven't changed? How come I am what I am? The Alter Rebbe came along and provided a healing for all of these things. Every single thing I've mentioned, in its harshest form, in fact, is healable. Not curable, but healable. This Tanya, the first thing it does, the reason all these problems have one basic underlying cause. The one basic underlying cause is simply, we don't know who we are. You don't know who you are. I don't know who I am. So, what do I measure myself against? I measure myself against others. I measure myself against texts. Or I measure myself against my Moreh Chazal. And it doesn't work well. I don't know who I am. I'm supposed to be this. Who told you you're supposed to be that? I'm supposed to be able to go here. Who told you that? I'm supposed to be able to improve. I'm supposed to be able to... And these things are logical. Intuitively, one senses that one should be able to go up. Then the big question comes, who says you're not going up? Who are you? You don't know who you are. You don't know what you've got. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know who you are. You are miserable on account of things, on account of this person, which is you, who you know nothing about. So the Alter Rebbe comes along, doesn't tell you about God, doesn't tell you about, he tells you about those things too. But he tells you about you, tells you about yourself. He says, you know something, sit down, my kid, I want to tell you something. I want to fill you in. And you sit down and he fills you in, and when you get up, you know that things are, it's entirely different from than what you thought. So it's a different story altogether. The first thing, beginning in Tanya, and I'm thinking now of Tanya by its title, Sefer Shel Beinanim. The beginning of Tanya, the Rebbe says, look, this is what you are. Let me explain to you your anatomy. I'm going to give you an anatomy lesson on yourself. You think that you are a unified, individual, self-contained personality. Forget it. It's not you. You, in fact, are at least 2 dimensions. And, in fact, quite a bit more, because the two dimensions subdivide. On the one hand, you are a chelik elokah mamal mamish. What's that? You are part of God. No explanations. When you're talking about Elikus, a lot of Chassidus. When you talk about Elokah, forget it. Nothing to say. That's the Almighty. That's you. That is you. And on the other hand, you are a behemoth. Not any kind of behemoth. You're not a nice deer who chooses berries in the forest, or a cow who grazes peacefully and gives milk to the world. You're a wolf or a snake, or maybe a spider. Something like this. But the truth is that even the wolf, the snake, and the spider, they're better than you. And the reason for that is because they can't do evil. They're hardwired the way they are. Wolves, tear animals apart because they're hungry. That's how they eat. Spiders do what they do. Snakes do what they do. That's the way they're created. They're hardwired. They have no choice in the matter. They're simply fulfilling the nature which Hashem gave them. You, on the other hand, are perverse. You love insulting. You have a huge ego. You have Animals do not eat for any other reason than to stay alive and to fill their stomachs. You eat because you get pleasure from it because it becomes a big thing by you. And you start to think about this animal that you've got. You've got these two, it's a very strange bedfellows, this chelik elokam mal mamish and this animal. And truth be told, Rabbi Sai, those who have not touched Tanya, I've conversed frequently with Yidden of all stripes, from Yidden of all stripes, they have no idea of the tension, of the duality that's existing within themselves. They think they're unidimensional. Well, if you're unidimensional, you're in big trouble. Because if you're unidimensional, that guy who worked on himself, all the Seres Yemei Tshuva, and struggled with himself, and actually was able to pile in himself a little bit of bittul, and a little bit of, maybe a little whiff of ava, and a little bit of yira, and he comes to his neila, and comes into his mind movies of a certain variety, then the guy who did all that avodah is the guy who had those horrible thoughts. It's the same person. He's a hypocrite. It's hopeless. It's a hopeless situation. He's in deep, deep trouble. This is one of the arguments that Tanya itself discusses just this issue. Why? Because it's so common among us. How many people have come up after Yom Kippur, young people come up to me and said, you could not believe what came into my mind during Mincha, during Neila. What do you mean your mind? Whose mind? Which mind? My mind. No, you don't have a mind. There are two. There's Nefesh Elikis, which are all of your Avodah, which was produced by. It's holy, it's good, it's pure, it's untouchable, it's uncorruptible, it's uncontaminatable. You cannot do anything with that. That is holiness in the bank, and it's yours. Must have been the mind of that other guy. And that other guy's real, and that other guy's powerful, and that other guy makes use, because it's invested in your body and it uses your mind, it seems like that's you. That's not you, that's only him. And he can be fixed. What happens with him can be fixed. What happens with the holy guy, all those things that led up to your disastrous mincha, beautiful. You have a beautiful avodah to your credit. Oh, you got this? All right, so you deal with this well. But if you're one person, you're one thing, you can't live because you have no stability, you have no stable reality, and you cannot go anywhere because it's a constant tug of war. The Rebbe is sitting down with you, telling you these things, and he says, you know something, I'll tell you where you stand. Here you have this chelik elokam mal mamish. Here you've got this behema, this nefesh bahamis, with all of its qualities, and you are in the middle of these two yous. You're standing dead in the middle. You are it's a setup. You do not, the nefesh elikis, the chelik elokam mal mamish, is not given to you in such force that it can dominate your being, that you can use it in a revealed way to dominate your behavior and your thinking. The animal, on the other hand, is perfectly matched, cannot dominate unless you let it, your whole being and your thinking. There's a war going on constantly. There's a war between these two dimensions. Every minute has a matter of choice. Every minute has its choice. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? What am I going to think? The animal states his case first. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to think. This is what you're going to say. Nefesh elikis steps in, and there's a war going on. You are caught in the middle. And this war never ends because the animal never loses its strength. So what does it seem like? You're treading water. If you're lucky, the war goes on. You know, one of the most, I don't know why, but one of those delicious things is when you have a extremely nasty but clever, very, very clever put down. And you're amongst a group of people at a fabrengen or something, and you look and you see this guy, and boy, he fits that put down. That's just, and you're just itching. It's dying to say it, and you restrain yourself. All right, I held myself back that time. Maybe you hold yourself back another time. Maybe the next time you won't hold yourself back. But you haven't gone anywhere. It's still, the duel is still there. The animal has not been subjugated in any way whatsoever. You have stayed the same. Tivas are the same. The weaknesses are the same. It's the same lazy you. It's the same stingy you. I don't mean you, but you get what I mean. It's a stalemate. You are in the midst of a stalemate, and it is. You would say, oh, that's no win. That's just the problem. I can't go anywhere. What can I control? I have no control. I can't control the animal. The neshama is whatever it is, and I'm caught between the fire here, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Well, you can control three things. You can control your thoughts, you can control your mouth, and you can control your actions. Those are garments of the soul. Quite right, you cannot change yourself. You cannot change for most people. You cannot change your midas. You cannot change your IQ. You cannot change your predispositions. You cannot change your personality. You are locked in, as said before. The question is that a disadvantage? And the answer is not only it's not a disadvantage. This locked-in, no-win situation that you've been put in is perfection itself. It puts you in a position that the entire creation envies. I want to pass something. I want you to see something. I want you to read this. Tell me what it says. What does it say?
I am now here.
Nowhere. I am now here.
I am nowhere.
Nowhere.
I am nowhere. That's what most people see. I am nowhere. Now I want you to read something else.
I'm now here.
Okay. I am nothing more of us.
That's it.
You got it.
What's different? That's it.
You should know a little bit of psychology, that there's something that has been, the cognitive psychologists have discovered in the last 10 years. It's called negative bias. We are hardwired for negativity, whether you know it or not. So the tendency is to see I am nowhere. This says I am now here. The exact opposite, the antithesis. These I am nowhere. These are the letters you've been given. This is the statement. Hashem is Baruch. This is your hand, my friend. It's got some deuces and a few fives, maybe a king, but maybe not. That's your hand. Is it going to change? No. Those are the letters you got. From the perspective of the way people tend to look at things, the whole tendency, the whole desire is I got to trade in these. I got to get rid of these letters. I'm stuck. Look what I'm stuck with. I am nowhere. I can't stay that way. I've got to somehow get the people who do better get better letters, have better letters. You're not going to get better letters. You are you. From the day you're born to the day you die, you are you. The limitations are you. Personal qualities are you. It's you. You're stuck. That's your hand. That's what you got. It will not change. The interesting thing is that what seems like such a tremendously inhibiting, limiting, deadly situation, static situation, it's the key to salvation. And the key to salvation is not to change the letters, because it's not going to happen. Not to look for a better hand. You're not going to get a better hand. This is what you've got to work with. The key to salvation is the letters themselves. The key to salvation is the limitations, the taivas, the weaknesses, the failures. That is all rich potential for the most lofty, advanced type of Avodas Hashem. So a couple of things. First of all, there's no bottom of the barrel, because everyone's in this boat. Okay? At the very least, everyone, from the biggest tzaddik to the biggest opposite, has the cheluk elokam amal mamish. That's the great equalizer. So to distinguish between Jews, you can distinguish perhaps between temporary Jewish behavior, or you can distinguish between personalities, but there is no pecking order. The tzaddik puts on the same tefillin that the little shnook and shul puts on at 6:30 in the morning. He's going off to work. At the core is Elokah, Chelik Elokah Mamal Mamish. There is no pecking order. This is a gewaltige chiddush. The Baal Shem Tov was the first one to bring this to light. You know, everyone thinks, the Baal Shem Tov, he loved all Jews. Why did he love all Jews? He loved all Jews because he was a Democrat. He was a goody two-shoes. Jews were downtrodden. The pecking order in those days was terrible. The Talmidim had the highest level. The Lamdonim and people who couldn't learn were regarded as and treated. It was a terrible thing. Baal Shem Tov comes along and looks at everybody. You're all crazy. You're the same thing, every one of you. Chelek Elokam Mamal Mamish. It's not revealed the same way in everybody, and in some people it's not revealed at all. It's beside the point. That's why we have Perak Lamed Beis of Tanya. Not that we're all, who can know the milas of neshamas, which is certainly true too. You're all the same thing. You have one father, we're all brothers. There are no distinctions in reality. The distinctions are in appearance. The Baal Shem Tov took us past appearance, but the Alter Rebbe put it in a way in which one could act on it in the most concrete possible fashion. So, how do you act on it? A person has a taiva for lashon hara. It's a defect. He's in a position where someone is, shall we say, stimulating him or provoking, and the urge for lashon hara burns like a fire. This could be any fault. Burns like a fire, and he's barely able to restrain himself. You have a saintly individual. The minute he smells a whiff of lashon hara, he'll leave the room. Who's in better shape? This guy is an animal. Fortunately, he has enough mind, enough seichel, nefesh hasichlis, which is in between, to somehow keep his mouth clean. But boy, he has that taiva. There's no question he has that taiva. A thought will come up to his mind of sinas chinam. He'll, with effort, get rid of the thought. It'll come back because he never left. It's there. The animal hasn't gone away. Someone else, chas v'sholom, I should have such thoughts. This person who is struggling with evil, the evil's his own, it's the hand he's been given, those are the deuces in his hand. Struggling with evil is what's called an Oved Hashem. It's called a servant of God. Servant of God. Doesn't matter what his status is. Doesn't matter whether he's unlearned or he's learned or he's a Baal Asik or a Yeshiva. It doesn't matter what he is. The fact is that he's come to grips with evil, which he can't conquer it. He can contain it. That's all he can do. And it requires tremendous effort to be able to contain it. The other person is saintly. That's not Oved Hashem. It may be a very nice person. Is not in the realm of tzaddik, of course, but could be very nice, could be a lovely person, could be a sin-free individual. But that is a life that's going nowhere. That is a boat that is adrift. That is someone who's making no progress. And that is someone who is not using the powers, is not fulfilling what God put him on earth for. The little guy with the struggle, that's what it's all about. This is the concept of this. One sees it elsewhere. You see it in Sifrei Kabbalah. You see it elsewhere. But the Rebbe made it a reality for us and made it a trademark and a tool which gives us the key to avodas Hashem. It's called iskafia. Iskafia means subjugation. Simple as that. You have not conquered evil. You have not become good. You have not changed yourself. You have not changed anything. All you've done is stand up to evil when it's in its full force, and you stared it down for the time being. Iskafia sitra achra istala kutcher bruchu b'kula alman. When sitra achra, when the evil is subjugated through iskafia, the glory of God uses lashon histalkus, a level of divinity which is so lofty that it's a state of aliyah, is revealed in all worlds. God delights in that. God sees that as the most delicious, most beautiful avodah. Why? Because it's so unnatural, it's so abnormal, it is so transcendent. So I've transcended anything, I've just contained myself. To contain yourself is energy intensive. It's expensive, it costs, it's a struggle, it's a fight. And the fight is for Kedusha. I don't feel anything. You don't have to feel anything. Feeling is not what's at stake here. This is a true, we talk about transcendence, it's interesting. You have spirituality has become a very popular issue. We see it in medicine, even see it in the business world. We have to become more spiritual. In medicine, this usually refers to mindfulness or something of that sort. Spirituality means you become a little bit fluffy, a little bit less engaged. Perhaps for some people it could mean relaxation. For other people it could, I'm not exactly sure what it means, but it has no content to it. It's just a form. True spirituality is to transcend all the forces and powers of nature, the furious forces of power of nature, to stand up to them when they're in their full force. If they're not in their full force, then you can't do a skafia. What does this mean? It means that, as the Rebbe is sitting and telling us and teaching us from Tanya, it means that the ordinary guy, the plain little schnook who davens with the 6:30 minyan, who falls asleep the minute he opens the Gemara, who is worried about money and who's worried about, and who likes a good schmaltz herring with a l'chaim, this little guy who's engaged in dealing with his vile thoughts, with his hatreds, with his proclivities, and struggling and fighting with himself, tzaddikim envy such a person. Because this person touches a level of kedusha that is inconceivable. There's a story, how true it is. It is true, but whether the facts are real or not, I don't know. But to me, it sums up everything. There was a couple living in Liadi, very, very poor, extremely poor people, and the wife would always, scrape and skimp and collect a penny here, a penny there. She had a little pushka she put in the pushka. Thursday, she'd look in the pushka and she'd say, I got, so many pennies. Thank God I can make Shabbos. So what was Shabbos? Shabbos was, she'd go to the market, she'd buy maybe whatever she could get, a little wheat for a challah, maybe a head of a fish or something. She'd throw together whatever she could throw together into this skimpy, dinky little Shabbos meal that she could afford. And that would be their Shabbos. Luxuries were absolutely out of the question. They didn't have any money. One week, Thursday, she looks in the pushka, and she sees she's got more money in there than usual, quite a bit more. So her eyes light up. She's going to make a carrot simmus. She goes off to the market. She buys a few carrots. She buys a little bit of sugar, buys a little bit of honey, comes home, puts all this in a pot, and starts mamish. The smell of Gan Eden is in the house, along with all the other little shreds of stuff she's made. And she's just absolutely thrilled. She's going to be able to give her husband Chaim a Shabbos, the likes of which she couldn't imagine in his wildest dreams. She runs off to do an errand. Chaim comes home, tired, famished, walks in the house. He smells a smell he never smelled in his life. And his eyes light up. He goes over to the stove and he looks at that, and here's it's a couple of noodles, a little shred of meat, fish. Looks, opens it, sees this orange, bubbling carrot simmus. And his eyes get wide. So his Yetzer Hara starts in on him. He says, Chaim, what's the matter with you? You're supposed to be a religious man. You're a person who mamish honors Shabbos. You're supposed to taste of the foods of Shabbos before Shabbos. So, yeah. So he takes a little bit, he tastes it, however it smelled, the taste was multiplied by 10. He's ecstatic. The Yetzer Hara starts in on him again. What do you eat for taiva? That's you chazer you. Eat enough, at least to make a nach bracha. Oh yeah, that's right. I should have some more. I make a nach bracha. Saif calls Saif. He polishes off the pot of simmus. The wife comes in. Chaim, do you see what I made for Shabbos? Oh yeah, I saw it. Can you smell it? Isn't it? Oh yeah, I smell it. She goes over to the stove. She looks in the pot. She ate it. So what do? It's Erev Shabbos. Chaim made up the simmus. You go to the Rebbe. So she runs to the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, shrieking and screaming, Rebbe, yelling. Me, the Rebbe is already decked out in white. He's a chesed, who knows what oil mice is in at this point, sitting at his desk. It's not. She comes in, and the mascaris is it's no time to bother the Rebbe, but she is so hysterical. They're afraid not to let her in because who knows, could be, God forbid, a sick child. It's obviously some major crisis. And they're afraid that they'll take their chances and let her into, even to disturb the Rebbe in this state. So she runs into the Rebbe's study and she shrieks, Rebbe, that Chazer Chaim made up all the carrot simmus. I made a carrot simmus for Shabbos, and that Chazer swallowed down every last drop of it. So meanwhile, the secretaries are kicking themselves and they want to die. They let this imbecile into disturb the Rebbe's Shabbos preparations. The Rebbe took it very seriously. He put his head in his hands, and he sat there for a good few minutes, tears rolling down his cheeks. And he sighed, and he said, if I could have only had the bracha, if I could only have the bracha that your husband could have had if he waited till Shabbos to eat the tzimmus. So he's shocked. He says, my Chaim? It's my husband, my Chaim? The Rebbe says, yes, you're a Chaim. He has brachas, can get brachas that you can't get. He said, absolutely. He said, I have no taste. I'm not interested in simus. I have no taste. It's not part of my world. I cannot do a skafia. I'm incapable of a skafia. Because my struggles have all been won. The battles have been fought and have been won. I can't get that tremendous lofty level that would have come about. Not that it was not eating it, but just putting it off for an hour. Someone struggles with themselves and manages to keep his mouth shut when he would like to insult someone else. And he goes, oh, I escaped once again. No, you didn't escape. You just elevated yourself. You just became, you're higher than the angels now. You just had a tremendous, tremendous aliyah. With the little we can control, and that's the whole tachlis. The Rabbanu Shalom deals us our hand, puts us in a straitjacket, sticks us in a cell, and he says, okay, Kinderlach, what are you going to do now? And you do, and you struggle against the straitjacket, and we struggle against the cell. It's a struggle, it's a fight, it's energy intensive, and with every push and every struggle, we fail. That's what tshuva is all about. That's what Rabbi Pinto spoke about Igeras HaTshuva. This is, the Rebbe will fix you up there too. We'll show you how to go in that way as well. What comes out, you're not nobody, and you're not nowhere. You are exceptional, and what makes you exceptional are the limitations, the restrictions, the humanness, the animal who contributes in no small measure to your great. Without an animal, you wouldn't be great. You'd be a holy robot. And the tedium, the trivia, here we're talking about a vita. What gets us more than anything else, if we're honest with ourselves, is that the day-to-day tedium, the trivia, the boring, the details, the schlepping to the dentist, and the schlepping to the garage, and the schlepping to the accountant, and the cleaning, and the this and the that, and the trivia that you so much don't want to do, and you lose sight of the fact that every single minute there are choices to be made. What are you thinking? What are you going to say? How are you going to do it? You're able to do something for your spouse. Your spouse needs something, you can do it. How's it going to be done? Every single thing is that golden opportunity to subjugate the yesh, to take the hand which you've been dealt, and read it that, here I am now, look at this. Look what I'm doing, look how I'm handling this, look how I'm thinking about it, look how I'm speaking of it, look how I'm doing it. What I am, but that what I am is something with tremendous potential. And what it does is it transforms. Again, in the general Jewish world, we think of levels of holiness. There are holy times and holy situations, and then there are ordinary. The Torah says as much. There's Kodesh and Choil. But the fact is, it's all Kodesh. And the Choil is higher than the Kodesh. And that's what Tanya is coming to tell us, coming to teach us. So it's also interesting, even with the Kavanah, the Avenir, look in Perek Mem Aleph. The poor guy, he's struggling, he's straining for a whiff of Yira, a little Yira Shemayim in his tefillah, a little Avos Hashem by his Kriya Shema. And he's struggling, he's fighting and struggling. Gornished, nothing. So the Rebbe not only tells him that's not nothing, it's a wonderful thing. The Rebbe supplies the Kabbalah behind why it's a wonderful thing, and the Hislapshus of Sfirdus, of Oilamais, which indicate that this little guy, his tefillah is no less, because it's with a full heart and it's sincere, and he wants, where a person's ratzon is, that's where he is, he wants kavanah, he wished he had yira, he would love to have ava, and therefore he's credited, not only credited with ava and yira, but the hamshachas that come to him are the hamshachas that come from ava and yira, because it's a real ava and yira. It's concealed within him, it's hidden. You say, but the whole thing's hypocrisy then, because all we're doing, again, we're not changing, all we're doing is behavior modification. It is hypocrisy, but it's holy hypocrisy. The Beinoni is a holy hypocrite. You look at the Aron HaKodesh in the Beis HaMikdash, it was gold, but it wasn't gold. That's the outside. It wasn't gold. It was really wood. It was only wood. Okay? So yeah, he looks like gold. The Beinoni, who you have no idea the evil that could be concealed in such a person, in the behemoth of such a person, in latency, of course. But there, he looks gold. He looks really like a tzaddik. The person behaves like a tzaddik. He's gold. Nah, he's really wood inside. But the truth of the matter is, in that wooden aron, there's another gold aron, because the Iker is really the Chelik Elikam Amal Mamish, and someone who wants, and no matter on what level, to express that dimension of his personality, whether he's able to feel it, whether he's not able to feel it, whether it changes his emotions, whether it changes his hergation, whether it changes his awareness, so no account whatsoever. He's real. He's real. He's gold on the inside, mitzad, a gift from the Rabbanu Shloim. He's gold on the outside, mitzad, his own efforts. And he's precious, and his life is beautiful, and everything he does is precious and holy and good. This is the healing which the Alter Rebbe brought to us in this precious book, Tanya. So very shortly, it's coming Yutes Kislev. We're starting another cycle of doing Chitas. Well, let's really look at it this time around and sit down with the Rebbe, a cup of tea, and let the Rebbe tell us what our lives are really all about.
Thank you very much, Professor Brawer. That was really inspiring. I'd like to invite everybody again for next time. Next time the shiur would be, the lecture would be in the month of Tevis. What was the date exactly? We'll see up the signs. We'll have announcements, and everybody will get the text, and we'll put up the lecture. Thank you again. Thank you again, Professor Brown.